Judges began to talk to other judges, and somebody said that somebody said that somebody said that the rules manager for Magic the Gathering, Jess Dunks, had ruled at PT Philadelphia that Grist could enter with Grafdigger's Cage. Order became chaos. So, what's happening and why is this relevant? A lot of the misconception came from one rule, 614.17d, which says, some can effects may modify how a permanent enters the battlefield, whether it can enter the battlefield. Such effects may come from a permanent itself. If they affect only that permanent, as opposed to general subject permanence that includes it, they might come from other sources. What do you got by all? Let's break it down. Let's make it a little easier to understand. Rule 614.17d says that if a can't effect modifies how a permanent enters the battlefield, we should look ahead to see how the affected permanent would be when it enters. And that gives us a clue. Look at Grafdigger's Cage again. What clue can you see? Is there some word or something that gives us a hint about Rule 17d? That's correct. Grafdigger's Cage doesn't care about permanence. We've got it. Grist is a creature in all zones, or creature card in all zones except the battlefield. Grafdigger's Cage stops cards from entering. It doesn't look ahead with 614.17d. So, Grafdigger's Cage does stop Grist from entering. As a note, this rule is the reason that Containment Priest can't stop Grist from entering, because it does look ahead. So what can we learn from this? Well, first, don't be afraid to reach out. Some of these rules, especially in Modern, are really complex. They're difficult, they're confusing. Modern has a lot of powerful, unique, and strange cards. So, after you issue a ruling, don't be afraid to ask other judges for their input. Even ask Wizards of the Coast. Sometimes you can get a direct answer from the rules manager, and his word is always correct, even if he is not correct. Also, confirm your sources. If you hear somebody said this, ask to see the original version, the primary source. If you are using a rule, find the original text of the rule in English or Korean. Try not to get lost in a game of telephone. And finally, remember that everybody makes mistakes. This is part of the self-care that Tony was talking about. Sometimes you will be wrong. I have been wrong giving judge presentations before. It's okay. We use this to learn. Additionally, you may find yourself facing an appeal. At large events, sometimes a player may ask for an appeal. When this happens, you will have to find the head judge or, at a very large event, an appeals judge. This is their top priority. They should stop doing everything else to answer an appeal. At small events with only one judge, however, your ruling is final. You are the head judge. After the judge hears details of the ruling from you and then talks to other players, they will either uphold your ruling or overrule you. I forgot to write on the slide, but when an appeal happens, you, the floor judge, should remember the time on the clock, the circumstances of the ruling, and the table number. you will need 3 things in order to go to the head judge and start an appeal. So, if your ruling is upheld, you made a correct decision. The head judge agrees. But maybe your ruling wasn't perfect. Think about how you gathered the information, how you asked questions, how you talked with the players. Think about how confidently you gave the ruling. As we said before with public speaking skills, if you seem unconfident, the player may not trust your decision and want a second opinion. Confidence can save time, and time is important in an event. The head judge may have some feedback for you. Tony mentioned debriefing. After a large event, judges talk. They discuss what went well, what went wrong. This is a good time to gain experience. Everything is a chance to learn. If your ruling is overturned, it's okay. Don't worry. An overturn could be because you were incorrect. Maybe you chose a fix that was not quite right. Maybe you and the head judge think the policy should be different. You can have a difference of opinion as a judge. That is a soft skill. That is a part of this game. If you are overturned, the most important thing, again, is to learn from it. So, after the event is over, you should discuss with the judge why it was overturned and what you can learn from it. Maybe you can even learn why your policy ideas are different, and one of you may change. All judge calls are room to grow. So, now I want to call on you, judges. Let's go on an adventure to the graveyard. So, adventures are weird. They're always the main card. In Eldraine, it's always a creature. In Baldur's Gate, they are artifacts. But they are the spell in the stack, and only the stack, right? Maybe. Can you cast an adventure with Renin 6, Retrace? Renin 6 ultimate ability. Retrace says you may cast a spell from your graveyard if you discard a land in addition to paying its other costs. Can I discard a land and cast Stomp from the graveyard?
No.
The answer is yes. How about Founding the Third Path? Can I cast with Ability 1? You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 1 or 2 from your hand.
It's not your hand.
Oh, that's true. It's not my hand. I did say graveyard. How about the third ability then? Can I exile Bone Crusher Giants from my graveyard and cast Stomp? No, you can't do that. Why not?
Because it's founding the third path need to exile target instant or sorcery spell, but yet in graveyard, it's a characteristic of the creature.
So it doesn't just say cast a spell, it looks for another word that we saw before. Card. When we are looking at adventures, they can also look ahead to see what they will be in the next zone. Retrace strangely works, if I'm recalling correctly. You may cast with Founding of the Third Path 1 if it's in your hand. Can I cast it with Leer and Flashback?
What's there say?
Leer says instant and sorcery cards have Flashback in your graveyard. It's equal to their mana cost.
It's seen as both a creature and a spell, right?
Yes.
So I would say yes.
It can look ahead and you can say yes. And what about Snapcaster Mage? Can I target Bone Crusher Giant to cast it again? No. A key difference in these two words is target card, target card. This just says I can cast instant and sorcery cards. So when I try to put it on the stack, the game will look ahead. What about Past in Flames?
So the mana cost would be 3?
The mana cost would be the cost of the spell.
Which would be 2?
Yeah. As a bonus, can you cast an adventure creature resolved with flashback?
No,
I cast Stomp with flashback.
No.
The mode has been changed.
Well, an adventure says, I'm talking about Bone Crusher Giant, the creature. An adventure says, after the sorcery resolves, exile it. You may cast it from exile if it resolved. Paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Flashback says if a card would leave the stack, exile it instead. You can choose which effect will go to replace putting the spell in your graveyard. So you can cast a Bone Crusher from exile if you cast it from your graveyard. This is just one card that you can see in Modern, and already there are so many headaches. For some of those cards, Adventure can work fine with Mode 1. For some cards, Adventure doesn't work. What should we do if a player attempts to target an Adventure with Snapcaster in an event? What if they resolve Past in Flames and try to cast Bone Crusher?
Illegal target?
It's an illegal target.
Not at all target?
Probably give them a gameplay error and a warning. They're trying to commit a rules violation. It's nice and simple, right? Modern times have modern problems. Many of these slides were taken from Judge Elliot Raff in US East, so I give him credit for most of these. But first, we need to talk about the ring in the room. This season, you will see the One Ring, unless it's banned. So let's talk about it. First off, the One Ring gives protection from everything. So what is protection? In English, we use DEBT, D-E-B-T. Protection stops damage. Protection stops equipping and enchanting, blocking, and targets. We can't block, so we don't need to worry. But we could be enchanted with a curse. We could also take damage. Or maybe someone might try to target us with a spell. So, when the ring's first triggered ability resolves, your opponents can attack you. But they can't do damage, right? Uh-oh.
Prevention, yeah.
I could have put Bone Crusher, but I think you've seen enough of him. What if the damage can't be prevented? Some cards will allow you to stop damage prevention. This stops protection. But, uh-oh. Skullclamp targets. Skullcrack targets. So can I hit my opponent with Skullcrack?
No.
Oh, gotta hit yourself. But, you know, he looks pretty good for a target. Maybe I can stop coming. So, when we deal with protection, remember that it's not a perfect protection. Things can change it, and your opponents may not know this. Protection is not a common ability these days, so newer players may have some difficulty with protection, and you may be called to rule. Another card you will, yes?
Questing Beast, I thought you were going to throw that one up there too.
No, I
But
don't.
that's within Modern's. But that's the other ruling I've seen recently. So
Yes.
Skullcrack and Questing Beast,
Yes.
damage can't be prevented.
Yeah,
So
Stomp would be more relevant for a lot of decks. Questing Beast is probably most common in Pioneer these days,
It's
but
not even in like it won't make a modern wave at all. So
It
combat damage can't be prevented.
it depends. A lot of things can happen very fast at 3 mana in Modern.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. So one of those is Orcish Bowmasters. You will see this card too. Luckily, it's fairly straightforward. There's not a lot of strange, tricky things you will have to worry about. If you've seen other triggered abilities, you've seen Orcish Bowmasters. But there is a new ability I want to talk about. Amass. Before, Amass only made zombie armies. Since then, Amass has been changed. All instances of Amass now read Amass Zombies X. And Amass has a different subtype for each Amass ability. So, we amass orcs. This makes an orc army token, even if you don't have one, and then adds X 1/1 counters to it. It becomes an orc in addition to its other types. So if you amass orcs onto a zombie army, it will be a zombie orc army. If types become relevant, maybe somebody has Plague Crafter, you need to know this. Additionally, changelings are an army. So if you have a changeling, you can put counters on the changeling. It's already an orc. Bonus question. What creature types can you create with Amass?
Orc, zombie,
And
such
Sliver.
as Sliver.
Orc, zombie, and sliver. There's one more.
You won in us.
You went thrown over.
There's one more.
One more?
Given?
One
Yeah.
Army.
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 Ah!
Army is still a creature type.
It
So
is related to BTS? It is related to BTS? Sorry.
I don't think they're very smooth like butter. So maybe not. That's all right. Those are the two. There it is. Slivers, but it's not modern legal, so not a problem. We'll go a little quickly now, just talk about some cards that you're going to see. The first is Urza Saga. I think you may know about this one. It's very popular. Every card search website's nightmare. This card broke many, many things for Scryfall and others. At the start of a first main phase, sagas add a lore counter, and that triggers a chapter. Sagas are sacrificed as a state-based action if the number of lore counters is equal or greater than the number of chapter abilities, and there are no abilities that triggered from this card on the stack. So, after your third lore counter is placed, but before you search for an artifact, you can activate Urza Saga. It is not yet sacrificed until you finish your search. After you search, you will have no chance to activate. It will be sacrificed. What happens if you add 2 or more lore counters at the same time?
Resolve chapters.
What order should I resolve the chapters in?
Ooh. Last in, first out.
Judge, if multiple triggers happen at the same time, what order do they go in?
Active player choice.
Correct. So, if somehow Urza Saga gains 2 counters, you will have 2 triggers, and you will choose the order. Maybe don't search first, or you could lose your saga before you can tap it. Each effect triggers would trigger if they were added individually. Can I search for an X cost card with Chapter 3?
No.
We need a mana cost, not a mana value. What about Blood Moon? gone. Bye-bye. Urza's Saga is still a saga. When it loses all abilities, it has 0 chapter abilities. If you have 0 counters or more, it is ready to be sacrificed as a state-based action. Bye-bye, Saga. Let's talk about Fable of the Mirror Breaker. But this time, I want to focus on some policy. A mistake that may happen in play and how we are supposed to handle it. So, I control a Fable of the Mirror Breaker with 1 lore counter. On my turn, untap, upkeep, draw. Then, I evoke Fury, destroying Tony's Omnath. After resolving the trigger of Fury, I realize I forgot to put a lore counter on Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Judge, what went wrong? And how can we fix it? What happens if I forget to put a
He
lore counter?
forgot. On base the action, put the roll counter.
That is,
So he will get gamble violation.
that is correct. Lore counters are a turn-based action, not a triggered ability. This is a game rule violation. I did not miss a trigger. The trigger would have been missed if I placed the counter, but I did not. If Tony had waited very long to notice, and the judge's policy is maybe strict, it's possible Tony can also get a failure to maintain game state. But this is very much up to the judge's discretion. Failure to maintain game state does tell you, you determine how long is reasonable for somebody to not notice. That is your decision and something that judges may disagree. I may say 2 phases is too long. Anyone may say a turn is okay. It may vary. What is the correct answer? That's for debate. Depending on the state of the game, judges can either rewind the missed action or leave the game as it is. If you feel the game has progressed too far, do not add the lore counter. Just let the game continue. If you add the lore counter, you should rewind back to the beginning of the main phase. You should not just add the lore counter and continue play. Another policy question. It's Chalice of the Void. I control a Chalice of the Void with 1 charge counter. I cast Ragavan for the dash cost. Tony says it resolves. I move to combat. I attack with Ragavan and another creature. Then I remember my Chalice and say, Judge! What happens? It's a miss trigger in the warning. Assuming it's not cheating. Since I called myself, probably safe that I'm not trying to cheat, but you may need to do an investigation. However, for this one, the fix is not a rewind. The game is left as is. So that is something to be aware of. The policy does not support rewinding the game or removing the Ragavan. Leave the game as it is, issue the warning, continue. What if Tony casts Ragavan for the dash cost? What happens then?
I overspent. Dash effect is 2, not 1. Oops.
But that's not a...
I know that's
Okay.
true.
Oh,
I overspent it right now.
yeah, that's true.
How far along are we? Are we into the damage step? Or it just got cast?
Let's have a damage step.
Ooh. No damage, return hand. Counter.
This is legal.
Yeah.
You are not required to notify your opponent of a missed trigger. It's not very nice. Tony is a bad friend. But he can attempt to make me miss my own trigger. Like this.
이게 앤서. 이게 아까 제가 이 앞에 세션에서 이야기 드렸지만 이게 비겁한 게 아니고 매직 더 게더링이 지금 격발 능력에 대해서는 개인의 능력이라고 지금 취급을 하고 있기 때문에 이게 보기에는 비겁해 보이는데 이게 규칙으로는 문제가 없어요. Thank you.
Yes. We call this chalice checking in English, and some people don't mind, some people truly hate it. Personally, I would be happier if we could remove it, but it's not easy to fix in our current rules. How about Doughty Voidwalker, another card you will see. Voidwalker has a replacement effect. It exiles your opponent's cards if they go to the graveyard, and it leaves them with a void counter. Later, you can sacrifice Doughty to get one of the void cards. What happens if you cast a lightning bolt targeting Doughty Voidwalker? Where will the lightning bolt go? It is exiled. Why is it exiled?
설명 한번 해볼 수 있어요? 네, 한글로 우리말로 해도 돼요.
네.
정확하게는 잘 모르겠는데
네.
아직 저게 그 스택상에 처리되고 나서
네.
쌓인 다음에 쌓여 있으니까 이제
네.
그때까지는 남아 있어서 제외되는 게 아닐까.
오케이, continue.
Okay.
예. 한번 들어보죠.
네.
Not the destruction of Voidwalker isn't checked until state-based actions are checked, and at that time, the card is placed in the graveyard. What about Fatal Push? Is that exiled? It's not. Fatal Push goes to the graveyard. While Fatal Push is resolving on the stack, the Destroy event moves Voidwalker to the graveyard. When the resolution finishes, Fatal Push is put into the graveyard. Voidwalker is already gone. There is no exile. What if I cast Lightning Bolt and Rest in Peace is also on the battlefield? What happens then?
두 개 같이 있을 때 라보를 쳤어요. 그럼 라보의 운명은 카운터가 올라오고 제거가 될까요? 그냥 제거가 될까요? 아니면 다른
Who will choose counter or no counter?
대체효과가 두 개가 있을 때는 조종사가 결정하고 대전에 적용을 받는 사람.
Yes. If you are the controller of Lightning Bolt, you will choose how it is affected. Two replacement effects are competing. You choose the affected result first, the order. What about if Living End is cast and Doughty Voidwalker is in your graveyard?
무덤에 있고 캐스트 했어요. 이제 캐스트가 됐어요. 어떻게든. 예. 그럼 어떻게 될까요?
어제라고 나온 다음에 카운터가 올라갈 것 같은데.
Now remember with Fatal Push, commands can happen and move zones while a card is resolving. When Living End finishes, Voidwalker will be on the battlefield, so Living End is exiled with a void counter. These are all very real interactions you will see at a modern event. These are some of the most popular cards at the moment. Yes, Tony?
I want to throw 2 cents. I know this is modern talk, which is very, very valid. I tried to, I was playing an EDH game, and I had Eureka. So Eureka is a green sorcery. It states, each player may put a permanent into play, and sequence until everyone's finished putting a permanent from their hand into play. But then other people are like, well, I haven't entered the battlefield effect. When does that go off? So for example, someone had the green creature that enters the battlefield, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Does that wipe out everyone's permanents? But effectively, looking into the rules, it's delayed. It's put on after. So Eureka needs to finalize itself before any end of the battlefield, triggers go on. But anyway, sorry.
Yes. Cards will often instruct you to repeat a process or to do something some number of times. You may put multiple permanents into the battlefield in an order. When this happens, you must wait until the spell is finished resolving to put any triggers required on the stack. So that is something that you will need to consider when you are playing with cards like Eureka and EDH. As a personal anecdote, while I fast forward, I recently went to Commander Weekend with Tony and some others. Actually, you weren't there, were you?
Triggers?
Yeah, no, the pension.
What was it?
Yeah, the pension. They were playing a 5-player game at about 1 o'clock in the morning,
All
and
weekend.
one player cast Warp World
Oh, yes.
Warp, yeah.
Awesome.
with 5 players and Swarm Intelligence. So we had to resolve Warp World 5 times. I was not playing. I helped moderate the event. It took almost 1 hour to resolve all 5 Warp Worlds because of interactions and triggers and repeated processes.
Question?
Yes.
Return to the page. Okay, we have the Doughty Void Worker
Yes.
and cast the flashback spell from the graveyard.
Yes.
Then, after the flashback spell resolved,
We can look to rest in peace for the answer. The flashback spell's owner will choose which replacement effect applies. Will it be flashback and exile or Doughty and exile? If you flash back a spell, you can choose not to have it have a void counter.
okay.
So you get the choice.
Not be friendly. Give it to him.
This is an RCQ, sir. I will not be friendly. Speaking of being very friendly, these two are very good friends. If I activate Inkmoth Nexus, equip Colossus Hammer, and activate Inkmoth Nexus again, does it have flying?
Yes.
Very simple timestamps question. Yes. Losing flying doesn't stop you from gaining it again. Insect goes bonk. Do you remember Tarmogoyf?
Yes.
Me neither. It's been 10 years. So long. I have an instant, a sorcery, and a land in my graveyard. Tony casts Kolagan's command. He is targeting me to discard a card, and Dragon Rage Channeler for 2 damage. I discard a creature card. What happens?
고 그러니까 그리고
Who owns Dragon Red? Sorry.
그 데미지 받고 히든
Oh,
그거
it's
언제
Lariat.
줬죠? 그 자기 피가 적어졌을 때 줘.
그거 언제 체크하죠? 네, 그걸 공부를 안 하면 몰라요. 룰 공부를 안 하면. 상태 참기를 안 해서 있어야죠. 네.
Are you targeting Dragon's Rage Channeler with the 2 damage?
You are, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the big
so-
shot. That's the part that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is correct though. When I discard the creature card, Delirium immediately activates. Before state-based actions are checked, Dragon's Rage Channeler becomes a 3/3. So it does not die. If you have tried to cast Lightning Bolt at a Tarmogoyf before, you know this pain. How about Modular and Infect?
아 이거 많이 나와.
I have Zabaz the Glimmerwisp with 1+1/+1 counter, and Walking Ballista with 2+1/+1 counters. Tony casts Scar, targeting Zabaz and giving him a -1/-1 counter. What happens next?
Pay 1 mana, destroy target artifact I control, modular over. Sorry.
That seems really expensive.
So the +1 and -1 count cancel out. Then it dies. There's no modular left. It saves a 2/2.
to simplify the question, how many counters should I put on Walking Ballista? 0, 1, or 2? It is 1. Modular triggers and 1 counter is putting on Walking Ballista. Zabaz isn't there to add another counter, but still had a +1/+1 counter and a -1/-1 counter when it dies for having 0 toughness. State-based actions are all checked simultaneously at the same time. Zabaz is destroyed before the counters can be removed. And if something is not on the battlefield, we use last known information. Zabaz can't give his bonus replacement effect, but modular will still trigger and give the +1/+1 counter to the Walking Ballista. This is our final slide. We're almost done. Speed round. Dress down. Layers. So, how does Dress Down interact with Dryad of the Elysian Grove? Can I play an additional land?
추가 랜드 없이.
No.
Are my lands all basic land type?
Yes.
Correct. Because type changing applies in an earlier layer, even though the ability is removed, it continues to apply. My lands are all types, and I can't play a bonus land. An attacking unlicensed hearse. Let's say the hearse is 4/4. What happens to the hearse?
Is it crude or not crude?
It's crude. It's attacking.
It becomes 0/0 and go into graveyard.
It loses its characteristic defining ability. It is a 0/0. It is the graveyard. What about an evoked incarnation like Solitude? I flash Solitude onto the battlefield.
After dress down?
It is already in field.
Yes. After Dress Down,
Those
Not secret.
Those
Enter the battle. Normal.
Yeah.
Normal fish.
so Solitude loses lifelink, loses flash, loses the enters the battlefield, and loses evoke. So evoke is actually 2 abilities. One is you may cast this for its evoke cost. 2 says when this creature enters the battlefield, if its evoke cost was paid. So this enters the battlefield ability is also removed. Incarnation is a 3/2 with no abilities, and it is not sacrificed. What about Ragavan that you dashed? I cast Ragavan with my dash cost. It's on the battlefield. Go to combat. Wait, Dress Down.
Return to the hand.
Delay trigger? Return to your hand?
That's correct. It can lose haste, so you can't attack, but it is still returned to your hand at the end. It's a delayed trigger. Inkmoth Nexus, that is activated after Dress Down is on the battlefield.
So it becomes a 1/1.
1/1.
Is it just a 1/1, or does it have flying and effect?
Just 1/1.
하고 나서
It's still alright. 능력을 갖고 있어요.
The timestamps are important here. Inkmoth becomes a creature, immediately loses all abilities, and then is given flying and infect. So it is a 1/1 flying infect Blinkmoth. It cannot add mana and you cannot activate again, but it does have the 2 extra abilities.
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you activate Inkbot 3 times?
Before it resolves?
You can't, can you? As soon as you activate it,
Because
first
it
time,
loses this
it
one
loses
one
instantaneously.
mana away
Yep.
after becoming.
Yeah. Only before it resolves you can.
Yeah.
Once it's resolved, the activated ability is gone.
So,
It's just flying infect 1/1. What if there is an Ornithopter with Cauldron complete?
0과 2가 붙어 있어요. 네.
Dress down is already on the battlefield. So after dress down, you equip.
gives it all with it.
You get everything. It's a 5/7. It has first strike, haste, trample, and indestructible, and it can exile a creature that it deals combat damage to, but no flying. What if Alesh Norn is on the battlefield? Do I draw a card with dress down?
No.
I hear one no.
I'm not a modern player, guys. Don't take my word for it. I'm just saying.
Two cards owner is the same.
Different owner. My Tony has the Alesh Norn. I have dress down.
I'm always the opponent.
Tony casts Alesh Norn after dress down. Or no, sorry. Tony casts Alesh Norn after I cast dress down. Do I draw a card? I do draw a card. When Dress Down enters the battlefield, the static ability, a continuous effect, immediately makes Alesh Norn lose all abilities. Then, triggers are checked as a state-based action to be put on the stack. At that time, Alesh Norn has no abilities. I may draw a card. So, things can happen at very, very, very fast speeds in Modern. Faster than a state-based effect. What if I channel Sokenzan? Can I attack with my spirits?
네, 헤이스트가 있냐를 묻는 거예요. 소켄잔 토큰에 헤이스트가 붙냐? 헤이스트가 있어요, 없어요? 그거를 묻는 거예요.
Dress down's already in play.
Yes.
Yes. In play and
The channel.
activate the channel ability.
Yes.
Then put it to 1/1 creature come down and can I attack? No. No. Someone yes?
I think it can.
It can.
It
Why?
can.
Why?
Why?
So Kenjan cards
Kenjan's channel is
부여한다.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, 맞아요.
And
Yeah. For the same reason as other cards, Ink Moth. First, the creature is created, then it loses all abilities, then it is given haste. It does not enter with haste, it gains haste. That happens slower than the continuous effect.
위드가 아니에요.
So
위드
it's-
헤이스트가 아니에요.
Yes. Yes, if it said with haste, it could not attack. But it gains haste.
이게 위드를 못 주는
Yeah.
이유를 제가 그냥 이제 제가 추가로 설명을 하면 토큰을 그런 식으로 위드를 붙일 수가 없어요. 왜냐하면 토큰 자체에 위드를 붙여버리면 룰북에 명시를 해버려야 되거든요. 근데 토큰을 룰북에 그 특성을 명시해버릴 수가 없어서 이런 식으로 텍스트를 써요.
예전에 다크뎁스
그런 것도 있고요.
We're finished. Last one. You're free. What if an opponent casts Murktide Regent and delves 4 spells? It's a 3/3 with no counters. The ability is the replacement effect is removed before it can take effect. So, Dress Down is one of the most confusing new cards in Modern, and something that is a great practice if you want to learn about layers more. We will see this card a lot. It is vital for some Modern decks. Yes, Tony.
I was gonna say, what if there's a way to make dress down a creature and then play another dress down? So therefore, dress down is at the beginning of the end step. Sacrifice it doesn't happen.
If dress down becomes a creature, you don't even need a second dress down.
Okay, it just wouldn't go away.
Yeah. Because creatures lose all abilities and continues to apply even after it has lost its ability. So you don't sacrifice it at the end step.
Okay.
But if it stops being a creature, you will sacrifice it at the next end step. Dress down checks to sacrifice every end
At the
step.
beginning of the end.
얘가 일단 생물로 얘 부여왕을 꺼내놓고 얘를 생물로 만들어요. 그다음 얘를 하나 더 깔아요. 그러면은 뒤에 나온 건 언제 희생하고 앞에 있던 건 언제 희생해요? 그 이야기를 하는 거예요 지금. 뒤에 나온 건 이번 턴에 희생하고 능력이 없어져 버렸으니까 다음 턴에 끝에 다음 넥스트 엔드업스 오를 때 희생하고.
Pizza is coming, I promise.
오케이.
Now, just as a little bonus, something that's more fun, this isn't a question, but sometimes a card does not work in our rules. Sometimes a card is printed broken. Does anybody know a card that was recently printed broken? There was a card whose rules did not work in Magic when it was released last year.
우리 이야기 많이 했는데 이거.
것 같은데 기억이 나요.
세라.
Oh,
One more.
there we go. One more.
어.
It's Sarah Paragon. Sarah Paragon's rules did not work. It was missing a rule in the comprehensive rules when the card released. So what was our solution to this problem as judges? What did we do? Did we say you can't use the ability? Can we fix this in the game?
Oracle.
Even an Oracle update wouldn't work because the problem is with the rules, not the card.
Change the comprehensive.
We can change the comprehensive rules, but we can't change until Brothers War. We had to wait 3 months or 2 months to change the rules. So for 2 months we had a broken card. Do we ban it? Do we ignore the ability? What can we do? Pretend it works. When Sarah Paragon was released, the rules manager, Jess Dunks, said, pretend Sarah Paragon works. You want it to work, they want it to work, it works. So we had a broken card, and it worked because we said so. That is the power of judges.
그 작년에 카톡에서 우리 이야기하던 거 기억하실 분들이 있지 모르겠지만 제가 그때 마지막에 했던 이야기가 뭐냐면 그냥 우리가 생각했던 그 이 목적 최종적으로 이렇게 사용되기를 원했던 거에 맞춰서 쓰게 하면 된다였고요. 어쩔 수가 없어요. 이런 부분들은.
I hope I didn't give you too much of a headache, and I hope that the policy discussion at the start gave you something to think about. But we are finished. So, thank you very much, everybody. Good luck in the coming season if you want to judge or play in the RCQs, and thank you.
오늘 이거 이제 요 질문 요 이야기에 대해서 또 추가적으로 궁금한 점이 좀 있으신 게 있을까요? 저는 오히려 I'm very thankful for you because next week I have to go to Barcelona
Oh
to
my God.
my Pro Tour judge, my first Pro Tour judge in modern event. 모던은 요번에 프로 투어인 거 아시잖아요. The head judge sent the mail yesterday. Please read some posting in Reddit. The Reddit posting is about the dress down. Every dress down text you read here is also in his mail. On his mail.
I can imagine that maybe Elliot Rath also was the inspiration. The dress down section was taken from another judge in America, so I say thank you to him for letting me share that, and thank you to you
Thank you.
for telling me about that presentation so I could use it.
그러니까 처음에는 우리가 이제 그 지난 2분기 때 준비하던 거의 연장인데 2분기 때는 사실 앞에 우리가 그래프디거 스테이지 이야기를 하면서 이걸 하면 좋겠다라고 이야기를 준비를 했는데 결국에는 이제 이 뒤에 있는 결국 우리가 모던을 지금 이제 앞으로 많이 그러니까 여러분이 이제 레벨 1이든 레벨 2든 이벤트에 참가를 많이 하든 적게 하든 다음 시즌에는 모던을 다 다루실 수밖에 없어요. 또 모던에서 가장 많이 나온 이야기들을 오늘 지금 여기 이야기해줬고 또 첫 번째 발표에서도 많이 이야기해주셨고 심지어 이 다음 세션에도 한 번 더 이야기를 하게 됩니다. 그래서 오늘 요 내용들을 잘 기억해 두시고 또 기억이 안 나면은 이제 유튜브에도 있지만 제가 또 오늘 톤이나 그 다음에 지오반이나 그 다음에 오늘 저기 박순건 저지나 또 뒤에 또 발표 내용으로 할 이수정 저지의 PT들이나 동영상을 다 올려놓고 보실 수 있게 해놓을 거예요. 그걸 또 한번 보시면서 사용을 했으면 좋겠습니다. I will upload your and you presenters PPTs and the recorded files on YouTube. So everybody share this one. Okay. 네, 수고 많으셨습니다. 일단 3시에 피자가 온다고 했는데 조금 더 기다리셔야 될 것 같고요. 지금부터 쉬는 시간을 하고 다음에는 3시부터 녹화된 내용으로 이재정 저지의 발표를 들으실 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 이따 3시에 또 뵐게요.
I tried, maybe we'll watch the video while we.
두 개입니다. 세 개가 아니라.
I tried my best to keep it like a little shorter. So I think I
아 타임로드가 안 나오는구나.
I think
근데
about
그거는
an hour.
그
a little under.
이터널
It's a
환경
little late,
아닌가요?
so maybe yeah.
뭐
50
어쨌든
minutes.
2,000원이라도. 타임스가 한 단어.
I fix everything.
끼어쓰게 놨고.
I was like, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get through it all, but I want to
이분들
make sure.
니콜 볼라스의 사태 한국밖에 없습니다. 한국엔 볼라스가 니콜과 볼라스로 나눠져 있어요.
그 번역되는 니콜 볼라스.
Yeah, he bought the whole box.
그냥 지가 가져달라고.
맞다 보니 좀 지저분해요.
3인도 하고 2인도
갑자기
지저분하고 많이 나게 드레스 나오고
선대용을 그리면 그냥 이대용으로.
한번 좀 구현한다. 안녕하세요. 호일은 제가 빨리 매주도록 하겠습니다. 제발 더 링이 더 원링이 보이기 프로목이 제발.
That's it. Thank
그거
you.
여기
Save
주고
me.
가세요 여기. 네, 감사합니다. 수고하셨습니다.
안녕하세요.
그리고
일곱 단인가?
차일드 보드 미스트라는 거. 근데
많이 먹었는데.
얘는 줄리아스 건데. 근데 이거는
Three more for
양
my
플레이어가
mom.
둘다
I only have one and I need four.
말을 누가 필요한데.
근데 나는 그런 의구심이 있어. 아까
The boy one.
나도 예스라고 하긴 했는데
Communicating engineering.
테니스?
반지랑 오목이 제일 다 쓰레기야.
아까 그
I think I still have a copy of Engineering.
어떤 거요?
Might be my trumpets box.
이건 쉬운 거.
플래시백을 캐스트해서 보행자가 있을 때
짱이 나와야 되네.
나도 보이드 카운터가 올라가면서 선택을 할 수 있다고 생각을 하는데
근데 애초에 플래시백은 제외가 되거나 요즘은
똑같이
안
저것도 제외예요. 일자일이 두 개이기 때문에 선택을 하는 거 맞는데 저는 얘는 얘 능력에 의해서 플래시백을 제거하는 거고 주문을 플래시백 자체 자기 대체 효과니까 얘를 무조건 먼저 적용해야 되지 않아. 자기 대체 효과를 나중에 주면 안 되는데 왜냐하면 그 있잖아 그 엑스트라 턴원은
둘다 대체 효과 대체로 제거되는 거 선택할 수 있는 거 아니야?
근데 이제 입자율 자 그러니까 그 대체 효과가 그 자기 텍스트 안에 있는 걸로 대체할 때는 그걸 나중에 적용한다 뒤에 적용한다 그런 게 있어가지고 그게 거기에 해당하지 않나 그런 생각이 들었거든. 그래서 조금 고민을 해봐야 될 것 같아. 그러니까 다우티에 의해서 다른 이제 플래시백 스펠이 제거되는 거 하고 플래시백 스펠에 자기 플래시백 스펠로 써가지고 플래시백 룰에 의해서 이 스펠이 다른데 안 가고 스택에서 바로 제거되는 거 하고.
뭐 어쨌든 상대방은 무조건 다우티 골 제하면 얼굴 빼기 싫으니까 무조건 추방할 거라서 큰 상관없지 않을까요?
그러니까 그 주문의 사용자가 누구냐에 따라 다르겠지.
그 사용자의 주문
아,
어차피
얘는
조종자는
아니겠구나.
어차피 다우티 조종자는 그렇게 할 리
모르지
없으니까.
주고 나서 다른 거 할 수도 있고. 뭐.
그치?
그렇다고요.
그거 궁금해. 그
어떤 거요?
여기서 오목이가 나오는데.
첼리스에서
네.
둘 다 불리한 격발 아니야?
첼리스?
첼리스.
TD 앞자
대시
요거
둘 다 불리한 격발이라서
이게 불리한 격발이라고.
양 플레이어가 둘 다 불리한 미스.
양플레한테 불리해. 저기 첼리스 주인한테 유리하지.
아니 자기도 체크를 해야지.
그러니까 그래서 그게 문제인 거야. 이게 그게 아까 그 저기 뭐야 그 성체 이야기하고 똑같은 거야. 팬드릴베이 이야기하고 팬드릴베이하고 조정자가 다르잖아. 그랬을 때 이거는 지금 보면
내가 되게
지오가 조정하고
재밌어
있고 저건 토니가 조정하고 있어. 근데 토니가 해결할게 하세요. 그러니까 내비뒀어. 그리고 전투 단계까지 가는 거 내비뒀어. 그럼 미스 트리거가 생긴 거잖아. 그 미스 트리거에게 주인한테는 유리한 거예요, 불리한 거예요, 현재 상황이. 자, 이건 통과하면 안 되니까 나한테는 안 이게 이 능력을 쓰는 건 좋은 능력이잖아. 근데 이걸 못 했으면 자기 실수지. 그러면 이제 미스 트리거 가고 선택권을 이제 상대방 조종자가 스택에 올릴지 아닐지 결정하게 되겠지. 필요한 경우에는 그것도 무시하고 그냥 지나갈 수도 있고.
그건 아까 플래시백이
네. 어떤 플래시백 보이든?
대체로 다우티랑 플래시백 얘기 가지고 많이 얘기하시는 거
그러니까 나도 그 이야기를 지금 아까 했어요.
플래시백을
네.
스택을 떠날 때 바로
얘도 스택을 떠날 때
무덤 갈 때.
근데 무덤에 갈 때는 플래시로 무덤에 안 가잖아요.
그런
저도 그 얘기 하려고 했어요.
해결됐다.
그러니까 신경 쓰지 않아도 되겠네요.
그러니까 플래시백은 무덤으로 안 가는데
오케이.
무덤에
스택에 떠난다면
그럼
스택을
됐어요.
가지 않고 제가
애초에 무덤을 안 찍고
무덤을 안 찍고.
찍으려고 안 하는데
그러면 다른 카드를 찾아야 되겠구만.
예시를 다른
입자일로 가려고 하는 스펠에서 해결되자마자 입자일로 가는데 자기 자신이 입자일 그
어둠의 천에 그러면 어둠의 천에 어둠의 천만
어드벤처가 제일 문제네.
반지 갖고 있는 사람 자꾸 카운트 안 하려고 한 장 들어가려고만 하는데 어떻게 하나요? 반지를 조정한 사람 자꾸 액티브하면서 카운트 안 하려고 한 장씩만 들어가려고 해요.
게임 규칙이 아니잖아.
고의야?
네?
고인가 실수인가?
두 번에 한 번씩 까먹어요.
그럼 물어봐. 그건 일부러 그러는 거니?
그건 진짜
그건
모르고
거의
하는
아닌
거야.
것 같은데 아닌가?
거의 진짜 모르고 쓰는 거 같은데.
이 내용이 너무 좋아. 이거 지금 다 여러분이 그 앞으로 최소 석 달간은 이거 계속 보셔야 될 거야. 여러분의 동네 토너에서.
저거는
리딩
아까 말했다시피 타모 골프 나올 때부터 나왔던 얘기.
유명했던 거.
아니 요 지금 오늘 요 프레젠테이션 1, 2, 3 했던 날들이 다
옛날부터
모든 이야기는 다 지금
라볼 타모 골프 2박 3일 때 라볼
나도 그 지랄 했다니까요. 2박 3일 때 쓰면서 왜 안 죽어요? 그래서 3박 3일
그러니까 그때부터
저진님 이걸 몰랐어요 그러는 거야.
라이트닝 물체가 생물을 죽이는 것이 아닙니다. 선택 참조가
선택 3조가 주.
고백 GP 가가지고 컨퍼런스에서 보던 이건 시험 봤잖아.
I got swamp.
컨퍼런스 가서 미국 컨퍼런스 가서
죽어 안 죽어?
모던에서 나오는 FAQ 시험 봤다. 앉아가지고.
I don't like these lens.
근데 공부해가야 될 필요가 있긴
They all
하죠.
look the
사실
same.
가장 많이 나오는 질문들은 테니까.
그러니까 그래서 레벨업 때 모아놓고 시험 같은 25분.
It's just a little treat for surviving.
다음날 룰링.
그래서 예전에
Wondering
그러니까
through
큰 시간
them all.
발표한 것 때문에라도 예전에 파이오니어 한참 그거 할 때 그냥 파이오니어에서 가장 많이 나오는 것들을 나열을 해볼까 했는데 뭔가를 마음 잡을 때 계속 새로워지냐. 아니 잠깐만 계속 업데이트를
정기적으로 한 달에 한 번이라도 단순한 카드를 모아서 플레이어들이랑
알고가 있는
좋기는 하죠.
기록을 이메이지게 할 거냐 디스코드에 하고
근데 이미지기 예전이랑 다르게 유저들이 접속자가 많이 하고 그건 아닌 것 같아서 사실 거래
어딘가에 기록을 해서 그걸
잡아서 종근을
청력
감사하면서 버튼
열심히 디스코드에 모아놓고
괜찮은데?
그걸 깔끔하게
It's amazing to feel like an hour.
예전에 그렇게 하려는 프로젝트가 많이 있었어요.
잠시 끕니다 방송.
그 뭐냐
Hold on.
송이랑 표정이랑 분들이